Let's go to Warren. He's calling from Vida, Montana. Warren, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Dave, thank you. Back in '92, I'm going to shorten this up as much as I can, but I met an old Jewish man who had been through the Holocaust. He was 4'7" tall, and that's how he survived it, being stored in the rafters in the floor joists. But he said, back before they were taken to the ghettos, Hitler had confiscated all their guns, and his dad had given up his shotgun. Well, his dad had made the comment to him when he was just a young boy that, well, we still have our money. Well, there wasn't 6 months went by, then they were in the ghettos, and by the end of the year, they were in Dachau. So what my point is who has the guns has the money.
Okay, Warren, thank you very much. Comment, Lee Bruner?
Well, you know, the famous quote out there that power comes out of the end of a gun. Unfortunately, it's true, and it's true in many cases. The Nazis obviously did seize all the firearms before they started imposing their very draconian, horrible policies on the people, and that was a big consideration of the founders. If you read through the Federalist Papers and some of those, that the guns were not necessarily just to protect you against burglars; they were also to protect you against tyranny.
Well, that's a good point. And of course, at the time that was written, at the time people were thinking about it, that tyranny was just yesterday. I mean, they were well familiar with what can happen if you don't have weapons.
Sure, they had just put their lives and their properties at risk fighting the British government. Many of them had been killed. Many of the leading families had their fortunes destroyed, their houses burned, and they had just fought to take those rights away.
Got another call for you. Eli is calling from Dillon. Good morning, Eli. You're on the air. Thanks for your call.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of all these pioneers coming west over the Cumberland Pass. If they did not have their rifles with them, those people had no protection. And I'm sure the powers that be at that time recognized that. If they had not had their rifles and been armed, they would have been completely merciless. They would have been without any power to defend themselves, okay, and their families.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, Ellie, thanks a lot. We appreciate your call and your comments this morning. And that's what, Lee Bruner, that's what you were talking about there. The guns were not only used against tyranny. Of course, that was a big feature, but it was for personal protection. You know, and think about this, too. Think about being a colonist. They're settling Virginia and Tennessee and some of the other areas there. There were a lot of wild animals there. Every picture you see of a pilgrim, he's carrying a blunderbuss over his shoulder, you know, because who knows what is out there.
Right. A famous story, and most of your listeners, I'm sure, probably followed Lewis and Clark pretty carefully, but there's a famous quote in Lewis's journal where he encounters the great white bear, the grizzly bear, and 3 or 4 of them take some shots at it, and they get some pretty good shots, and it goes down very quickly. And he writes in his journal, we've encountered the great white bear, and he poses no threat to men armed with modern weapons. And then not a day or two later, he shoots one, he wounds it, and it puts him in the Missouri River and almost has him for dinner. So, that personal protection's a big issue there as well.
Oh, absolutely. Mike is calling from Big Fork, Montana. Mike, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
Hi.
First of all, we don't have constitutional rights. We have inalienable rights. Constitution just lays out that these are God-given rights. If you say you have constitutional rights, it means you submit yourself to a court or authority, but they're inalienable rights. Am I not right?
You know, I question that sometimes, too. The Constitution only gives us 3 rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Anything else that's added to that, I think, are maybe sub-rights or maybe just spin-offs of those 3 rights that the Constitution gives us. Let's ask Lee Bruner.
Mike, your point is very well taken, and we use a lot of shorthand in constitutional law to articulate concepts that we all understand. But to follow up on your point a little bit, to expand on it, rights are not.
Sure, I have one more thing before you're done.
Okay, no problem. Rights are not given to us by the Constitution. Rights are reserved in the Constitution to us. It's a government of limited powers, and when the Constitution was written, the people gave certain powers to the government, and they reserve those rights. So the Constitution doesn't really give us anything. In an exact reading, it actually only allows the government certain rights. So,
right.
Your point's well taken.
You had another comment, Mike?
Yes, about the Second Amendment and the wording of the Second Amendment. It's important to understand that the National Guard is not a militia. It's nationalized. It's federalized. It's not a state militia. When it was a state militia back in the 20s, but then they federalized it, I think, under Roosevelt. But when it comes to guns, we really don't have any infringements because in the state of Montana, if I want to get a bazooka or a cannon or a grenade, I have to apply for permits and pay a tax stamp fee, just like the tax stamps back in the constitutional days. You could buy a full-on weapon here in Montana. You guys know that, right?
Well, of course, if you go and you get your Class 3 weapons permit, you can legally purchase and own a fully automatic weapon.
Not just automatic weapons, but grenades. There was you can buy a 40-millimeter grenade launcher. That's considered a destructive device. I was looking on their website, and I don't think many people realize that there is no infringements other than you have to do the paperwork and pay a tax.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to look that up. And
I don't know the answer to that. I'm aware of fully automatic weapons, but beyond that, I can't comment. Yeah,
I've got to take a break right here, Mike. Thank you very much for your call. Well thought out call, and glad you called. I want you to do it again. We'll be right back. Our telephone number 1-866-627-5483.